time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
It is time for Cutting Edge Consciousness. Good moment, everyone. And good moment, Sandi. Sandi Stuart sitting in for Freeman Michaels, vacationing Freeman Michaels. Good morning, honey.
Good morning, honey.
For those listening, driving along, thinking I'm awfully familiar, I go home every night with honey, and I wake up every morning with honey. Honey has been my honey for 5 years of marriage?
About that.
Long time. And what's more, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Get any good gifts?
Yeah, I got a few really good gifts. I got some very nice gifts, big gifts. But I got one gift in particular that is sitting with me, and I'm holding in my heart with light humor. Mm-hmm. And that's the gift you gave me early this morning.
This is a family broadcast, honey.
Yeah.
Just a little heads up on it.
After that gift,
Okay.
The next gift.
Great.
And for those of you listening, Barnet and I sometimes have this phrase that I'm sure you've heard, and it's when pigs fly. Like, so to sort of speak to the fact that, that's going to happen, never. Except that we talk more and more about the fact that we're in a place where pigs are actually flying because everything that was impossible now seems possible.
More and more, the extraordinary seems ordinary.
Exactly. And so I opened this little box, and inside was a beautiful brass sculpture of a pig with wings to remind me that pigs do, in fact, fly, and life is not as we ever have known it to be before.
Well, happy birthday. I think
Thank you.
This thing about this extraordinary life increasingly becoming ordinary, by no means banal. I don't mean ordinary in any kind of judgmental way, but it's just more and more that is the new operating standard. And I think that beyond our avocation that the developing of ease and rapport and relationship with that, I think that is our real work. And so I came upon this poem that I also want to share with you, San, and with our listeners, from the wonderful Wendell Berry, who is a poet and a farmer who lives in the south of Kentucky. I think personally that he is a national treasure, who writes it may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And when we no longer know which way to go, we have begun our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings.
It's comforting, isn't it?
It gives me chills. It gives me chills. The first time I read that was such a long time ago, long before I had any understanding of what it might be about. And fortunately, we have a guest with us today who knows a great deal about what this is about. I certainly hope so. If not, then we have spent many years, all of us together, including the guest, barking up the wrong tree. I'm really thrilled to welcome our guest, Jach Pursel, who is a dear friend and who is, for those that know, he is the channel for another dear friend, Lazaris, and he has been Lazaris' only channel since, I think, 1974, if memory serves. So, Jach, welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Thank you, and happy birthday to you, Sandi, for sure.
Thank you, Jach.
It's great to be here. Great to be here.
It's wonderful. So, Jach, the real work, the impeded stream, is the one that sings. What does that bring up for you?
Wonderful. Yeah, I hadn't heard that before, and that was written so long ago
so
as
beautiful.
well. I love that line, when you don't have anything to do, that's when your work has really begun.
Yeah.
Because, and I tell you, more and more I'm coming to that, in terms of my own life, in terms of all that I have done and the doing.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I want to be, I just want to be. And step out of that phase of doing, and it's really hard. because so many people say, well, what have you been doing? And even just in casual conversation, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? And to say, I just want to hang out and being for a while, it just doesn't make sense. But more and more, this is the exciting part for me, more and more it's starting to make sense to me. And it's like that's where it's got to begin, right? And, as it makes more and more sense to me that it's okay to just be, and to say, look back at a day and say, I was just being today, and no, I can't put words to that, and no, I can't tell you what it is, but I can experience it, and I can feel it, and I can be it. I don't have to do anything with it. As that becomes okay, which is starting to do, if it becomes okay for me, then it's I'm finding it's starting to be okay with others too. In other words, it's okay with them that I'm just being. So it's an exciting time, and that first line, particularly of that poem, when you have nothing more to do, that's when your journey really begins. It's like, wow, that's really.
And the mind
wonderful.
that is not baffled is not employed. Such a different idea of the healthy role of the mind, the mature role of a mind, not to be strategizing and making decisions, but simply to be a processor of data and whatever else, but to be employed, not over-functioning. We're so conditioned to believe that the mind is everything.
Yeah.
And this wonderful thing that you're referring to, that I think that you're referring to when we talk about the being and being comfortable with it, there's some sort of knowing that supersedes the mind's understanding of how the world is structured. It's just it's more.
Yeah, exactly.
And the mind suddenly surrenders to it when it is not struggling against it. It surrenders to it.
Well, we've been so conditioned that we have to categorize everything, and we have to understand everything, and we have to figure everything out and make it all fit. We've got to make it all fit, and the whole thing about being comfortable. We have to be comfortable, even if we're wrong. We'd rather be wrong than uncomfortable, and trying to fit everything in and make everything find its place in the bookshelf or in the boxes, etc. And when we can give that up, and just be someone who's baffled, and I'm to be baffled, and just to be okay with that.
You have to be wise to be baffled.
Yeah.
And I've got to resolve that. I've got to become unbaffled. It's like, no, I'm going to be baffled, and how exciting. The concept of thinking I can to go forward. Being, who are you? Well, I'm a baffled person.
A baffled being.
Yes.
I think in the last few days, a few things have happened at our home that kind of
baffling things
that speaks to this. And Barnett and I were talking about it last night as we sort of like flopped down on the couch and said, "Okay, what the?" And we had an experience which was very expanding and a lot of magic and a real big expansion in our lives, which was fabulous. And we were feeling great. And we come home and we smell either a dead rat or gas in the house. Or both. Actually, it turns out to be both. So we have a gas leak, and the gas company, bless them, they came every time we called them. However, they could not. Every time they came, they needed more equipment. It was like, so we were sort of caught in that Groundhog Day where I'll be back tomorrow with another piece of equipment to figure this out. But still, we have no hot water. We have no stove. We're showering at this summer camp across the street. And we also think we're smelling a rat. And we're going, wow, we just like had this big expansion and we come in and now we're just sort of stuck. And our propane is leaking, our source of power is leaking, and we smell something, there's something dead under our house that's rotten that we're not looking at, like, what's going on here? And we flop down on the couch, And we have to admit that nothing is as it seems. If we don't look beneath the house, if we don't look underneath these pipes to get what really is, if we don't allow ourselves to be baffled, if we just say, okay, well, the propane is leaking, let's fix it, then it's pretty mundane. But actually, when we start looking beneath, there are a lot of treasures that change the experience into like, wow, this is kind of interesting. This is sort of, and what can be revealed. And we still haven't, as you said, Jach, the mind hasn't figured it out, and we don't have to. But just getting in that place of saying, wow, it's never about what we think it's about. What is it really about? And then being in that place, the energy lifted, and we can actually be with it in a more curious, fun way and kind of flow with it today. And we're still in the same boat. The gas company's coming back today. The bug guy's coming to look for the rat. But we're at least flowing in the possibility of, something could loosen and be revealed here.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Yeah. There's a rat.
There's a rat.
There's a rat, and we've run out of gas, and all these structures are dying, and the whole world is more and more obviously in constant and intimate relationship with us individually. That's one of the myriad takeaways. The whole world is in communication all of the time.
It is amazing. Yeah.
Feedback system, right?
It's this
feedback system.
It's this sort of constant the enchantment that we have talked about for so long.
Mm-hmm.
For so long.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think it seems to be, from my experience, happening more and more, faster and faster with those kinds of connections of not answers, but just the connections of, we are all kind of breathing together. We are all really connected. I mean, it's been a theory. It's been a concept forever. Yeah. That, oh, yes, of course, and we get together and we meditate, and, oh, yes, we are all connected, aren't we? And it feels great, and for the minute, etc. And then we get back to the normal, very separated life that we live. But more and more now, it's like, it feels wonderful, and it's spreading out, and it's becoming, as you say, part of the ordinary in terms of, rather than an extraordinary experience of connectiveness, we're now having these ordinary experiences of connectedness in terms of they're happening more and more, and it's not just in a meditation, or it's not just when we get together with friends, it's spreading out and feeling it in more ways. And so, I mean, it's really neat as you're looking at the power is leaking, and there's this something's foul here, something's rotting away here, and right after this wonderful success. So I mean, it could be guilt, for example, it could be guilt, and it's like, oh, that old rat, he's been playing under the house for a long time, and now he's dying, and so okay, it smells, and we got to do something about it, but. We're releasing this rather than what's wrong with us. And it's like more and more that connection of everything's connected, everything's, flowing together. It just, it gets more exciting, I think, and being baffled part of it makes it more exciting, I think, rather than trying to make it all fit.
Well, without the bafflement, then I know that I become so married to sort of this commitment to it all making sense and being logical, which which I think is an expression of righteousness. I'm beginning to understand what that sort of biblical injunction about righteousness was. I used to think it simply was a sort of noble response to life, and more I understand it as a positional, a highly structured response to life. Without the bafflement, I am married, I'm wedded to a position of logic, and this leads to that, and it has to make sense in my very structured way, and nothing ever can change. You can never introduce any new energy into it. But we have to introduce some new energy right now. We have to go and pay a few bills. We're going to come right back after we we ask you to buy cars, bread, and new banking services. And whoever else we have sponsoring our show today, we're grateful for you sponsors. We will be right back with Jach Pursel after we hear from them. So stay with us.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
We're back indeed. Thank you for staying with us here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. I'm sitting with Sandi Stuart and our special guest, Jach Pursel. Jach has just returned from a trip to, not only to the East Coast, but to the very, very south of the East Coast, all the way south to Colombia. I'm curious. Sandi asked me last night, we were talking, and she said, I wonder if there are any sort of distinctions that are obvious, or maybe even less so obvious, about how people cling to this sort of logic, this logician, this inner logician that keeps us confined to a particular worldview. If there are any distinctions from one culture to another. So, Jach, having just come back from South America, is there anything obvious or not so obvious in that respect?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm not sure in terms of, I guess it would fit with the rational, logical, linear thinking mode. There's one thing I find, for me, very fascinating and part of what I love about going to Colombia, and I do love going there, even though it's still, State Department says it's dangerous, and, it could be. But I love going there, and partly it's the nonlinear quality to life that's there. And for example, from my experience, time is viewed very differently, and reality is viewed very differently I think in South America, period, although my experience is limited to Colombia. And for example, in my culture here in the States, time is a linear thing. Minutes, hours, this sort of thing, and things are defined in my reality here. I've been conditioned for all these years to define everything by time. In terms of just a simple thing. You have a business lunch, that's 90 minutes. You have a business dinner, that's an hour, that's 2 hours. You have a business meeting, that's 45 minutes to 50 minutes. Things are defined this way. Whereas in Colombia, what I found is time is defined not at all linearly. It's defined by the moment. And, this is the moment. And that moment may last 5 minutes, or it may last 5 hours, or anywhere in between. And no one cares. And no one cares. It just is. And one of my favorite examples of this is Enrique and I were there, and we went to lunch with 4 or 5 friends on a Sunday afternoon that started at 1:30 in the afternoon with an hour-long drive to the restaurant, and then lunch. And then by 5:30, we were left the restaurant to go to another place for dessert, have dessert for lunch. Well, all the while, of course, I'm looking at my watch. Oh, my God, we're an hour and a half. Oh, my gosh, it's 3 o'clock. Oh, look at this, it's 4 o'clock. How can we be 4 o'clock? This is lunch. They didn't look at the clock once. And, I was the only one that cared about time. They had no thought of time. We're in the moment. And the thing that I found about this that was so fascinating to me is, I've met a lot of people in Colombia, and, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago when I was there, and they remember my name, and they remember what I do, and they remember, details of when we got together for lunch 7 years ago on that Sunday. Wow. And it's like, wow, I don't even think I remember your name, and I certainly don't remember what we had for lunch or what we talked about. And I realized, for me, that's because time's linear. And I'm looking at the time passage, whereas for them, that moment was all there was. That moment was, and they remember the detail of it. Mm-hmm. And so what I found is, and for me it was very difficult, very awkward to adjust to that moment, measuring things by moments, measuring things by space rather than by time. And what it has done for me is, okay, I'm going to be in this moment. I'm going to really try to be in this moment and be in this space. And I'm beginning to do that. It's happening. And I'm finding, the logic falls away. The logic falls away, and just what is. It doesn't have to be explained. It doesn't have to be defined. It doesn't have to be labeled. It can just be. It can just be. And I can just be with it. And when it just be, that we don't have the grammar for it, when it just is being, and I'm just being, there's a connection of space, a connection of space, not time, of space. And that is timeless. There's no time to it at all. It's timeless. And it becomes a part of who I am, and I become a part of it, and it's like, whoa! It's just, it's not logical. There's no logic to it. And it is just a wonderful suspension of a moment in space, and to be able to live there, and to have the next moment, and the next moment. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But it's like, ooh, that tastes so good, and that's what I'm looking for. And so, I was in Colombia for 2.5 weeks taking Spanish classes, but I was in Colombia also just letting myself be.
Collapsing time into the moment for 2.5. So it's probably only 2.5 weeks when you get back.
Yeah.
It was just the endless now.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that, Jach. When you were speaking about it, I really started to look at time as the distraction that it is, and that we possibly use time as a way to actually split off from ourselves, to not be in our emotions and be in our bodies and be present. And I had a similar experience when I was in Italy teaching, and I came back and I said to Barnet, everybody talks about how passionate the Italians are, and I think of South American culture the same, although I haven't spent a lot of time there, but it seems to me to be similar. And but in order to live a passionate life, you have to be in your life. You have to be home. You have to be present. And that idea of time is kind of a way that we can stay at a comfortable distance from our passion, and to let go of that idea of time and be in the moment, in the present, in the experience, and really allow ourselves to feel that depth of belonging and joy or sadness or whatever's going on is, I think, not so much the American way. It's not how you sort of move forward and carry on and create. But just that passion of the moment and putting aside time. And, for us, it means, putting aside technology, putting aside that phone every time you get a message that interrupts the moment that you're in.
Putting aside overworking, which is another great way we split off. Overfunctioning, we call it time is money, that old sort of Calvinist saw.
Yeah, right. Time is money. Wow.
That's what a substitute for aliveness. But so many are caught in it, and I know I work with that constantly. I can find myself lost there.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
But there's substitutes for aliveness and for being in the passion of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an amazing story, Jach, and again, so much a part of, as Wendell Berry writes, so much a part of the real work.
Yeah, I think so. It's beautiful. Wendell Berry, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
So wonderful. I mean, there is so much. He's written so much. There are no even bad paragraphs or bad sentences. They are all so rich. They're so juicy. Really a gift. He is such a gift.
Well, I'm finding bad sentences are kind of fun.
Yeah, they help. They help point out,
illuminate the good ones.
Yes, they brighten the good ones. This thing that you're talking about, San, the ways that you use that language about splitting off,
mm-hmm.
the ways that we split off from what is the more real of ourselves,
mm-hmm.
all of these substitutes. That's such a powerful way to speak of it. When we began at the top of the show, we were talking a little bit about this sort of chaos and all of the kinds of I don't know whether I said it or I thought it. Sometimes I get lost. I don't know whether I think things, say things, or dream things. It's all of a piece now. But there are all of these internal, these inside voices, all these aspects of myself developmentally at different places, all of whom have these very firm ideas about how life works. And I hear from them all, and I'm beginning to learn not to believe everything I think.
Yeah.
But we sort of split off from the superseding real, the most real that we can tap, the more real that we can tap. We split off into these less developed, fragmented worldviews, and I think to be able to go into the bafflement with some wisdom involves being intimate enough with all of those fragments, sufficient enough of those fragments to recognize them for what they are and to love them. But boy, isn't that a challenge?
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Even in the last couple of days with our power and our rats and all that, it was easier for a few days. We thought it's actually painful, but I thought it was easier to be in sort of doing mode. And okay, well, we're going to call the plumber. We're going to call this one. We're going to call that.
We're going to power through this.
We're going to power through our lack of power. And then when we finally plopped down on the couch and stopped thinking about it and actually was able to feel just the frustration of this and feeling I just feel blocked and all these blocked impulse wishes. I just want to take a hot shower, and the frustration and just out of the head and into the emotions. That's when it's flipped. That's when it became, wow, look at the treasures in here. What's going on? Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe I have to look at this. The whole thing flipped, but that way of powering through is also a way to split off from the real. And what was real took us 3 days. It was plopping down on the couch and going, holy, you know what? I'm just frustrated. I'm just, and then there's room for the light to shine in.
Room for the bafflement.
Yeah.
As opposed to I got to power my way to
fix.
To us fixing.
Okay, this is fixed on to the next, Yeah.
So it seems to me that when we talk of the paradigm we live in, the paradigm that defines the boundaries of our reality, but it also is an observing device through which we define our reality. And so, that those little voices that you talk about, that say be logical, be reasonable, this is how you handle things, this is what you do, they're all part of that paradigm that defines the boundary of what we call the real world, but they also, are the observing devices that we're using. And so, to step beyond that and say, I'm not going to think about this. I'm going to feel it, and I'm not going to follow what I've learned. I've spent how many years learning all this stuff of how to get along in reality. I'm going to suspend that for a moment and forget everything I learned, and just wait in the silence, wait in the pause, and when those voices, shush now, quiet, just. Wait in the pause for something I don't know, for something I haven't already been, something that just is for me in this moment. I mean, it's thrilling stuff.
It's thrilling. It is thrilling. I mean, my eyes are like filling up with tears right now just from the
I thought I was grinding my teeth, but I realized they're chattering from excitement.
No, but you know what it is? It's the thrill of knowing. I don't really know, but I know. I know what you're saying is completely the truth, and I really have no idea. But in my body, just like from my solar plexus up through my heart, it's just lifting in this expansion of, I know the truth of this, and I know that that's what I'm doing here this time.
Real bafflement is exhilarating.
It's exhilarating. It is. Yes. It's like, I don't know, but I'm thrilled.
It's such an exhilaration in that kind of baffled surrender.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating because suddenly that tightly wound structured imagination, I can feel
for me,
touched.
That's part of what knowing without certainty is.
Yes.
And I know, like Lazaris talks about, the grandest form of love is, loving someone and knowing that love without certainty.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost orgasmic.
It is.
And when you get in that place of, I'm going to stop these voices that tell me what I know and just wait upon the voices I don't know. Wait upon the state of being that I don't know, but that I know it, even though I can't, it's not with certainty. Certainty didn't get me there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I'm uncertain, but certainty didn't get me there. Logic and reason didn't get me to there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost orgasmic. It's wonderful.
I think because we have to stay home by home, I mean with ourselves, to be baffled and uncertain, we have to remain in that pause that you talk about. And the thinking or focusing on time or all the other distractions is a way that we actually abandon ourselves. And there can be no safety when we self-abandon. There's nothing to hold on to. So when we can reconnect through our emotions and stay present to the bafflement and stay present to the unknowingness, it's okay because I'm with me. I'm not alone. I've got me. And I can trust. I can find trust, and then I can connect with God, Goddess, all that is, or spirit, or angels, or love, or the universe, or my best friend to support me because I'm actually home living my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is so juicy. It's so beautiful. So it occurs to me right now that bafflement is really high ground for the mind. It's really it is really a beautiful, beautiful state of the mind functioning at its ultimate, without creating meaning and without being too committed to logic and reason. It just surrenders and delivers information. It just delivers data. But beyond that, everything else is above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a doorway. I think it's a wonderful doorway.
Yeah.
To what? I don't know. It's a wonderful doorway.
We're finding out, though. We'll find out.
Yeah, well, if I knew where it was going, it's not the right doorway.
Exactly.
That's right. Exactly. If I could see the path, I'm
on the wrong one.
I'm not making it.
I'm on the wrong one. Yeah.
Right.
That's another piece is this, the baffled life, the marriage of a baffled life with the confidence and competence to pursue it. It adds up to a life that is, I don't really have language for this, so maybe we can all find the language for this. It is a completely original life. I can't think of any language in that I'm aware of that captures the magnitude of the originality, of the singularity of a life that is lived in this state, that has, it's this poetic life that is not anchored to the conditions of our culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another word
that's where we're going.
Another word that comes to me that's really overused right now, but to really fall into the meaning of authenticity, authentic, really a real authentic life is an exploration, is just an exploration. Yeah.
25 years ago, I remember driving in my car. I even remember the road I was on, listening to a little cassette in my thing, and hearing a Lazaris tape, and hearing one day your life will not look like the average life, and I couldn't even conceive of what could that possibly refer to, a life that would look like. And
like a life.
Like a life. like anything that I have known, and more I am living into the truth of that.
more and more pigs are flying.
More and more pigs fly, and pigs have wings, and probably wheels too. They take off faster with wheels.
Yeah.
So these wholly, fully original lives that bust out of the bounds of how our imaginations have been conditioned by lives. Wow, what is in store? What is in store?
And then the thought comes up that that idea, the totally original life, really scares a part of us, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Ah!
You know, like how can the world function? I mean, it's okay maybe if there's 1 or 2 or 3 people like that,
right.
But if
Billions.
we were all like that, you know, oh my gosh, how would we get through the day? How would we, you know? And it's like, because you know, this original being has been so alienated from what reality is, so pushed out of the paradigm, so unallowed. And it's like, it's just, I mean, I'm very aware, like, you know, so many people in this country and in the world feeling like they don't belong. You know, that you hear about it in terms of the kids that are joining ISIL and the kids that are becoming, you know, this because they don't feel like they belong. They feel totally alienated and da-da-da. You know, like, what's wrong with them, right? But looking at it in terms of, I create my own reality. So until I deal with my own sense of alienation, my own sense of not belonging, as I'm changing, you know, becoming a different kind of person, and I'm not fitting in the paradigm like I used to. It's like, you know, coming to peace with that at least, and mustering the courage to do it anyway, to be more of that original person, even though every bit of logic says, no, you can't. The world won't function, right? And to open up to the possibility that not just me, but everybody, you know, or not all at once, but more and more people are going to be moving into this space, Barnet, that you're talking about, of this very original kind of human being. It's like, it takes courage to think that. It takes even more courage to open up to let it be. And it feels like, wow, as I do that for me, that can have impact upon the lack of belonging that so many people feel. I don't know. Connected, you know?
There was a time where I remember, yes, I wanted to live an original life. I wanted to live the dream, and I wanted everything to be the same. You know,
change it all up, but don't fundamentally change the paradigm.
But I still want my bank account to be the same. I want to live in the same place. I want, and that was as far as I could go. You know, yes, I could imagine this other life, and I needed everything to be the same. And what's kind of thrilling and scary now, it almost feels like walking on a high wire between two high buildings, is sort of that feeling, one foot in front of the other. And now I know that everything can and will be different, and nothing will look the same, and there's no floor that I'm aware of that's familiar to stand on. So although it's not exactly free fall, I'm supported and I'm standing on something, but I have to, for me personally, walk gingerly, and that means with as much consciousness as I can muster in the moment, so that I stay, you know, upright on this wire. But it's moved from wanting change but having it look the same to wanting change, knowing there is change, and really knowing it's not going to look the same. And that's that's scary and thrilling, and
post-logical.
Post-logical. Yes.
Yeah, isn't it though? Yeah.
So here's a question that emerges out of that thought, San. And I'm interested in your response to this, Jach. There's this paradox of living more and more fully in the timeless moment, with the holding of a vision of the future, and an aliveness of dreaming. They seem to be paradoxical. They're not. The paradox resolves in some way, But I'm very interested in your thinking about that and your feeling about that.
How is it a paradox?
Being in the present, fully in the present, whilst holding a vision of the future.
Oh.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, there's a difference between being and visioning, and, so, I mean, it's like being, being in the moment and yet thinking about and having images of the future. What I've come to with that, for me, in terms of, like a new world and what the future is going to look like, for me, I've come to kind of seeing it like a basket that I'm tossing ideas into. Mm-hmm. And rather than saying, okay, now I want my future to look like this, and I get up in the morning and I do this, and then I spend half the day doing this, and the other part of the day doing that, and the other part of the day, wonderful miracles happen, and then, at the end of the day, I go to bed and have sweet and wonderful dreams. Yeah. No.
I'll take that.
I'm not trying to put together a logical, linear future. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, wow, here's a thing. I would really like, to have, a lot of laughter in my future. Mm. So, boom, I'm just going to throw a lot of laughter into that basket. And I would like to have
it's a cocktail.
Meaningful conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would like to have, not just how are you and what are you doing. Yeah, okay, we'll say all that first stuff, until we get comfortable. And then let's have something meaningful. So I just kind of toss meaningful conversations into this basket. And I just keep thinking of little things like that don't fit together. How would that come about? I don't care how it would come about. I don't want to know even. Mm-hmm. I just want it. So I'm going to put that out there. And I want to be able to do this and have this, even though it may be a contradiction or something else. I'm just going to throw all these things into this basket that I call the future, that is what I'm starting to look at as my personal collective consciousness, maybe collective unconsciousness. Mm. That is mine, personal one, and it's like, and I'm going to do that, keep throwing things in there, and let that collective unconsciousness, be a beacon, pulling me in that direction. So it's like I can live in the moment, and in this moment I have this idea. Whoa, it would be fun to have a meaningful conversation with so-and-so. Okay, I'm going to throw that into the basket and let it be in the basket. Now I'm still here, being in the moment. Mm-hmm. But I know it's out there, and maybe it'll percolate, and maybe that idea with another and another and another 10 or 12 or 13 ideas that I've even forgotten that I put in the basket will percolate or resonate with one another, and something totally different will come out of it. Mm-hmm. Something totally unexpected, something totally unplanned that will just be. And it's like, oh, how did that happen? I don't know. It just did. Because I kept throwing all these little tidbits, these little ideas of things I want in the future. So when I sit around and, quote, sit around and dream of the future, I don't see a full scenario. I don't see a landscape. I just keep throwing little pieces of puzzles, little pieces of the puzzle, and figure my higher self or whomever will be able to put it together.
I love that, because as you say it, Jach, I actually can experience the potential of the feeling in the present that you're throwing in the basket for the future. But I'm actually experiencing the joy of that idea in the present.
Exactly.
So I'm not really in a paradox. I'm just here with it.
Yeah. You're collapsing it all into the frequency, all into the energy, and I'm feeling it also as you're speaking about it.
Yeah. I think what happens there is, I'm in the moment, and there's the future, and when I from my experience, when I do that, it's like I'm entering somewhere between, somewhere between being in the moment and somewhere between the future. And it's not a linear between.
Right.
It's an emotional between, where the power is. And so, to the extent that there is a paradox there of how can you live in the present and plan for the future, to the extent that there is a paradox there, there's something that in all paradox, the power lies in the common ground between. And I think that, for me, this is the way I do it. And it's not like this is how everybody should do it, but this is what works for me, is I start, rather than trying to figure out what kind of government would we have in a new world, or what kind of economic system would we have in a new world, how would transportation work in the new world? None of that. In my new world, I'm going to have a lot of fun times with people. In my new world, I'm going to laugh a lot. In my new world, I'm going to have time to think, and I'm going to explore my passion, for writing and for thinking, and have the freedom to do that whenever I want. These little pieces of that, and if I put that out there, that resonance is going to create a government that's going to work.
Yes.
Or not. But in my reality, and so I get in that place between where I am and my future, and I think that's the power that creates.
Wow, that is gorgeous. And for everyone listening, and for those of you driving, you can pull over right now and take a shot at that and throw some futures out. What a beautiful message and parting gift. This is our last broadcast of the year. Beautiful parting gift, and a wonderful, wonderful way to invite the world of 2015 already. It's 2015 in a matter of days. What a wonderful way to start 2015 by sowing those kinds of futures. We have not only come to the end of the year, we've come to the end of this show. And
just this one, though, because we can imagine in the basket another one and feel just as good and keep the feeling going.
We can throw them out and keep it going. You're absolutely right. So, Jach, I want to thank you for joining us on Cutting Edge Consciousness, and I'm looking forward to more times with you on this program, and maybe even in studio. Maybe we can get you in studio, too. So.
And more times laughing, and more times with interesting conversation around our fireplace together,
I love
too.
it. I love it. Definitely. I'm throwing that into the basket. You got it.
Okay, me too.
So lots of love, and have a great holiday. Listeners, lots of love. Have a great holiday. We will be back with you next year.
Great.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Jach.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.